is impossible. Okay, talagang dapat na na-cite namin kayo in contempt. Unbelievable.
Today I'm trying something new and making a podcast episode. I don't plan on making a lot of episodes, but this story has been unpredictable. As I'm recording this in September 2024, Alice Guo, a former mayor of the Philippines, is in jail for some serious charges: money laundering, human trafficking, false identity, and fraud. Her city, Bamban, is not that big, with fewer than 80,000 people. But when the national government began investigating online gambling centers there, known as POGOs, Alice Guo's testimony stuck out.
Guo said she could not remember where she was born, the reason behind the 17-year delay in her birth registration, and the homeschool program she was under.
Your Honor, hindi ko na po alam.
At first, Alice was explaining herself in interviews, and everyone thought she was kind of a character. A variety show even did a skit with someone posing as an Alice lookalike.
Mayor, thank you so much for gracing our show. Hindi siya yan! Buti na lang naalala mo ang daan papunta dito.
She says the line about not remembering.
Your Honor, hindi ko na po maalala.
Despite the levity, the online gambling centers were looking worse and worse. Using the gambling as a cover, these businesses would send scammy phone calls and text messages. Some of their workers have been lured to the Philippines with the promise of a legitimate job and become trapped in the system. One of these centers was just behind the Bamban City Hall. As things were looking more criminal, Alice fled the country, possibly without telling her lawyers or anyone in the government.
I am now in receipt of information that this person was already in fact out of the country on July 18, 2024 to Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia.
Alice's escape was embarrassing, but it also isn't clear how legal or illegal it might be. At this point, Guo was not indicted for anything. I believe she only had a subpoena to continue appearing in front of the Senate. Let's take a moment. I should admit that I am the wrong person to cover this story. One of the reasons I made a podcast is it's hard to keep track of the headlines and dramatic turns as an American English reader. If you understand the language, the politics, the history, that's the podcast I want to hear. Let's get you a microphone, okay? Now, where was Alice going, and could she be caught before disappearing? Brazen has a podcast episode with Jane Bradley about how countries use Interpol notices to flag passports and monitor citizens' travel, sometimes to the point of harassment. The Philippines appeared reluctant to take these measures. Here, an official was asked about canceling Alice's passport.
We cannot summarily cancel a passport because it is a document vested with rights. No? Now, it was not found advisable also to treat it summarily, because if the passports are cancelled immediately, then how can you make them travel back to the country?
Then there was a break. Alice's sister, Sheila Guo, was captured along with a business partner, Cassandra Ong, in the Riau Islands of Indonesia. They were found at a mall or hotel next to the ferry to Singapore. I think this is when the story got onto my radar because I visited the Riau Islands back in February this year. They're really great. Mantap. When Sheila returned to the Philippines, she told the Senate that their escape involved multiple boats to Sabah, Malaysia, then flying through the Kuala Lumpur airport to Singapore. The story is missing details and not totally verified. Sheila also made a stunning admission.
So si Alice, hindi mo siya tunay na kapatid?
Hindi po, pag ganyan.
Hindi kayo related?
Hindi.
Hindi kayo tunay na magkapatid?
Ako po.
Oh, hindi kayo biological
Opo,
na magkapatid? Okay.
Sheila had come from China to the Philippines as a teenager, then met Alice, and they pretended to be sisters to support their fake identities. Meanwhile, the Filipino government had found that Alice and Sheila's fingerprints matched Chinese tourists who entered the country many years ago. How had she avoided notice and even been elected mayor? Let's rewind to 2022, before the drama, when Alice ran for office. She posted a campaign video, which is getting a lot of snarky comments these days. We start with Alice waking up and calling her dog.
Cash, good morning. Cash, come here. Cash, 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 cash.
She eats breakfast with a few people.
Mag-ayos ng hair ko dahil mahaba. Kumakain muna ako ng breakfast.
Then she goes to a large barn to sort eggs. I believe that she's saying that she owns or helps manage the farm, but she's clearly familiar with every part of it.
Ito po ang ginagawa natin dito sa chicken farm natin. Nag-grade po tayo ng egg according to their weight. Iba-ibang timbang, iba-ibang category. Meron tayong peewee, meron tayong extra small, small, medium, large, and extra large.
At this point, was Alice already part of the online gambling business, which would run scams out of Bamban? Was she running for office to provide cover for someone, or to benefit herself? Okay, let's return to 2024. Alice Guo was on the run. She became a meme all over again, with many restaurants and brands getting in on the joke.
Congratulations, Alice Guo! We are giving you free sunscreen stick. Send us your location now, Alice Guo. Sayang to, claim mo na your honor.
On September 3rd, just before midnight, the Indonesian police caught Alice outside of Jakarta without incident. This began a journey towards some more answers. The Interior Minister and Chief of the Philippine National Police quickly flew to pick up Alice Guo. Shockingly, she took photos with everyone, waving a peace sign, smiling for the camera. And she asked for protection. Was Alice going to cooperate? Could she unravel this whole story?
We want answers, not a photo shoot.
Well, so far it's not going that way. She has appeared before the Senate multiple times, but then called on her right against self-incrimination. She's also not naming any collaborators in fear of death threats. To give you a taste of how ridiculous this gets, when describing her escape, Alice was asked how long she was on the boat to Malaysia. Senator Hontiveros asked how many times she ate breakfast on the boat. Alice says that she does not eat breakfast.
4 days,
Baka 4 or 3 or 5, mga ganun. Basta matagal po.
3 to 5 days. Ilang beses kayo nag-breakfast?
Ako po kasi hindi po ako nagbe-breakfast.
Okay, ilang beses kayo nag-lunch?
Yung food po kasi namin, may ano po kami, siguro mga 3 or mga 4 days po siguro.
Social media remembered the campaign vlog where she eats breakfast with friends. Toyo is her favorite.
Pagising ko ng umaga, ang ginagawa ko, pagkatapos ko maligo, mag-ayos ng hair ko dahil mahaba, kumakain muna ako ng breakfast, pagkatapos ko mag-breakfast, saka ka lang ako nagwo-work either sa election or sa farm, sa negosyo. Ang pinaka-favorite ko po na ulam tuwing umaga, almusal, ay tuyo. Kasi hindi siya maalat at ito talaga paborito ko.
And you won't believe what else is happening in this story.
Couple shirts and properties with their names on the documents. Why did Sual Pangasinan Mayor Don Calugay and Alice Guo have them if they weren't in a relationship?
Punutin namin sa inyo na parang ngipin.
Opo, pero
Write it
kasi
on the
natatakot
paper.
po kasi ako.
Write it on the paper at i-appreciate namin pag nabasa na namin.
What Chinese language do you speak? Hokkien or Mandarin?
I can speak Hokkien po.
Okay, speak in Hokkien now.
A woman accused of being a decoy for Alice Guo.
If you coin the name Ali-sel, Ali stands for Alice and Sel stands for Liseldo. Di ba? Okay ba? Ha? Tama?
This concludes the first episode of my podcast. Maybe I can do 1 or 2 more episodes about this topic. We'll see.